Welcome committee members, liaisons, and members of the public to the Legal Services Trust Fund Eligibility Grants Committee meeting. We are using Zoom with the goal to foster a more inclusive environment and effective meeting. If you would like to comment during the meeting, please use the raise hand feature. Please utilize this tool to virtually indicate you would like to speak in order to help the chair facilitate the discussion. A friendly reminder, this is a video conference meeting per Bagley-King requirements. All cameras must be kept on during the duration of the meeting. If you're not able to have your camera on, you must indicate a reason why for your non-appearance during the meeting. Please be aware of your surroundings behind you. All meetings will be recorded and posted to the State Bar's website. Zoom captioning is available. To enable, select live transcript at the bottom of your Zoom screen and then select enable transcript. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we go ahead and take roll?
Babcock? Absent. Blakemore?
Blakemore's here.
Donnelly? Absent. Gonzalez?
Present.
King?
Here.
Klein?
Here.
Pryor?
Here.
Stockford?
Here.
Falcon?
Here.
We have quorum, and then I'll go for our non-voting advisors and liaisons. Justice Rodriguez? Absent. Judge Wayne Gutierrez? Selena Copeland from LAC?
Present as liaison.
Lauren Klein from LAC? Zach Newman from LAC? Melanie Snyder from Judicial Council? Absent. Nicole Claro from Judicial Council? Absent. Oh, I think we do have a Judicial Council representative. What else? Ms. Kim. And then just taking note of State Farm stuff.
Hi, this
Thank
is
you.
Yoon Kim from the Judicial Council as a liaison representing for the Judicial Council.
Thank you.
And Melanie Snyder, sorry, I was in the panelist pool.
Oh,
But
no
I'm here.
problem. Thank you, Melanie.
Great. I guess we'll move on to our public comment section. Is there anyone that wants to make public comment? And if so, I'll go through the standard intro for that.
There's one person. Hold on a second.
Cool. So before we let them start going, I'm going to ask that we do 2 minutes for public comment, just because I'm a little bit constrained for time and we've got a lot of agenda items. If we could limit our public comment to those items which are related to the purposes of the Grant Eligibility and Support Committee, which is what we are, and anything related, obviously, to the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission subject matter. So we can go ahead and open it up to the public commenter to get started.
Good afternoon. My name is Kai Om from Sacramento. Political power is controlling State Bar of California, California justice system, Attorney General, and law enforcement agency not to investigate Sacramento DA office and SPD make up a story that killer Mr. Jung So Fong hit and run, kill my father Woon Kong on. DA case number 99F08735. It is a serious integrity issue. To consider social responsibility, State Bar Board of Trustee and other committee members should report this incident to all assembly members, senators, and all California citizens to keep an integrity government and justice system. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. We were.
Okay. Anyone else for public comment?
We have a couple more people. Hold on one second.
Thank you.
Esteemed members of the committee, I am Sergio Perez, former executive director for the Center for Human Rights and Constitutional Law, and I am speaking with regards to item 5.5. I support the working group's recommendation to find the center ineligible for 2016 funds. Despite my appreciation for the work of the center, I believe it is in the interest of both the organization and the people of California that it no longer be funded. However, I strongly urge you to continue to carry out regulatory oversight over the center, given its reliance on attorneys' fees generated by past state bar grant dollars. The item highlights the concentration of power in President Carlos Holguin following changes to the organization's bylaws. That choice reflects a persistent and ongoing cultural feature of the center. Its board and certain staff see it not as a nonprofit, but as something like a for-profit enterprise belonging solely to Mr. Holguin. But even before that choice, Mr. Holguin flouted best practices, regulatory mandates, and the organization's fiscal controls to his benefit. A chief example of this is the compensation scheme that you are aware of. Another is the years-long practice that preceded me as executive director. For years, Mr. Holguin directed the deposit of attorneys' fees generated by state bar-funded work to a bank account not associated with the center and wholly under his personal and exclusive control. This was known to staff leadership that preceded me, but it was not corrected. When I confronted Mr. Holguin, he threatened my livelihood, threatened me with litigation, and delayed the transfer of center funds unless I guaranteed him that I would honor the compensation scheme that you are aware of, and to allow him to keep $80,000 of the over $300,000 in funds that were in the account. It took months of effort at great expense by a select staff and largely captured in written correspondence that I am happy to provide to have the account closed and the funds moved. Please keep this in mind as you make your decision.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
Dear State Bar Commission, I'm Tanya Millan, the Executive Director at the Wage Justice Center. I want to express my gratitude for the State Bar's consideration. I also want to address our limited administrative capacity and the fact that we currently do not use any of our IOTA fund for administrative support. We have identified a consultant and we will be requesting a budget modification so we can bring them on to straighten our administrative systems and make sure that our late submissions do not happen again. I also want to note that we operate on a January to December calendar year, which has also made it difficult to meet the audit deadline difficulties. Our board will also be notified about considering modifying our operating calendar to July to June to give us a bit more time, although that's still in an exploratory phase. Again, thank you so much for your support and consideration.
Which, when I applied.
Thank you. Next.
I was lucky to get more, but this is like 50.
Hi, my name is Luann Nguyen. I come before you in a very difficult situation for me. I am the former deputy director at Coalition of California Welfare Rights Organization. I read your report and I'm very interested in it because as the former deputy of the organization, I've come to realize that there are problems with the organization in terms of how it was run when I was there. And I worked very hard for 15 months to create the changes I wanted to see in a way that I could feel proud about as a human being, as someone who's employed using taxpayer dollars, as a person working for an entity that's funded by the state bar, to make sure that the way that the organization carries out its job is of good quality, and that the way that we carry ourselves is with the best ethics that we can muster in the context of serving the public and frankly, each other as co-workers and the QLSPs as the public entities that we are there to serve. And I face great difficulties in that because what I was learning were that there were problems. And there was a couple of problems that I was primarily concerned about. The first problem being that Kevin Islanian, the former ED, and my boss at the time was representing clients in a way that was not in alignment with the state bar rules. And that left me gravely concerned for the clients, which I'm not sure if I should stop with that. Sorry.
Why don't you, Juan, why don't you go ahead and wrap up your comments? That's what that
Yeah,
indicates.
I'm greatly concerned by the way that Kevin was behaving in terms of representing clients. And I think that there is serious concerns that I continue to have about his veracity and his willingness to tell the truth. And I think that the thing that I want to learn, want to relay to the bar today is that there is a difference between authentic reform versus playing games. And I hope that you are not in a situation again where games are being played with you. And I have the utmost respect for Stephen Goldberg, who is the new ED of the organization. But this is not necessarily turning a new leaf because Stephen has been involved with CCWRO for a long time. And so I think that moving forward, what has to be considered is whether this change and this reform is authentic and is worthy and deserving of your money, and that Kevin is truly not the boss here. Because if he is, his situation and the way that he has run the organization has been questionable for so many years, and I saw that firsthand. And I think that you need to ask whether this is true leadership that you are getting, or if you're getting someone who is being played by Kevin in the way that we all continue to be played by Kevin. Thank
Thank you
you.
for your comments. Do we have anyone else? Okay.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Monica Julian. I'm the Executive Director of VITAS, Vital Immigrant Defense Advocacy and Services, and we are included in item number 5.2 this afternoon. I just want to briefly say thank you to the Working Committee for the extraordinary efforts and thoroughness in reviewing our eligibility for IOLTA and EAF funding. And without any factual additions to the report at this time, I just want to say that, of course, on behalf of the organization, I do support the recommendation that VITAS be found eligible. We would be honored and excited to partner with the State Bar to expand immigration legal services in the North Bay area. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Annabelle Sanchez, and I am the Executive Director for Community Lawyers Incorporated, based out of Compton. I know that there is an item that's currently on the agenda for our 2027 funding. I'm here today really to advocate on behalf of CLI to see if the committee would be willing to allow for funding for us in 2027. The facts, and I know that this committee has talked about this extensively in past meetings, and the issues that were presented as to why CLI was no longer able to get funding for the rest of the 2026 year have been addressed, and I've said this to the committee before. The structure that we used for our pro bono volunteer clinics has changed. We do make sure that all notes are in our case management system. We have a staff attorney present at every pro bono clinic that is run, and we typically do 1 to maybe 2 pro bono clinics a month. and this is only for consultations that we provide free to the public. The topics that we normally do within our pro bono clinics are topics over areas of law that we actually do there at CLI. And one of the things that I really want to emphasize is the things that we're doing differently here is not just the case management system and the notes, but we have staff members that are making sure that these processes are being done in each clinic. There's in-person supervision of a staff attorney or a supervising attorney in each clinic. And we're also meeting with clients to make sure that it's not just the consultation that's being done, but we're also seeing how we can actually represent them in that matter throughout some of the other programs that we do. So, I understand the committee's concerns as to what was happening in the past. What I'm trying and what I've been trying to share with the committee is that that is no longer happening. And, we are willing to do whatever it is that's necessary to be able to show that within our reports, within our case management system, if that is something that's needed. Thank you to the committee and, just the members that spoke to us privately as well. Your concerns have been documented and they have been taken into consideration for our policy changes. I'll be here in the meeting if there's any questions that are available or that come up for CLI.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Bartis Vakili. I'm the legal director for the Center for Human Rights and Constitutional Law. As I believe staff will confirm, we have withdrawn our request for funding for 2027. As has been observed, we've been in a period of transition at the center, and there's sometimes growing pains that come with that. At this point, our goal is to focus on ensuring we complete our work implementing the recommendations of this commission regarding fiscal and governance matters. We've made significant progress, but it has taken more time than we'd like due to the transitions in our office. I won't dignify Mr. Perez's personal accusations against someone who isn't present. Already some of his information is outdated, others incorrect, but there's a process for neutral evaluation of these things. I will leave it to that process. As far as I know, this organization has long been monitored by this body, and we're welcome to continue so. In the meantime, our substantive work continues. I'm proud of that work. That work has thankfully been highly effective even during this transition. With the front of the house continuing to do effective work, the task now before us is to ensure the back of the house is in order. We thank the commission for its work, its staff for its time. I have a personal commitment. I will not be able to stay for the duration of this meeting, but my colleague Sarah Khan will remain on the line if we are needed for anything during this meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kim or Erica, could you unmute the public commenter? Should Mr. Goldberg go or do you want?
Yes.
Okay. Stephen, I think you're up if you want to start your public comment.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the commission today. My name is Stephen Goldberg. I'm the new executive director of the Coalition of California Welfare Rights Organizations. I rise today with a couple of additional points in addition to the written comments I already submitted in support of the Commission Working Group members' recommendation that CCWO be granted IOLTA NEAF funding for 2027 with conditions. The first thing I need to discuss is that based on the recommendation and based on Ms. Hune's comments earlier, just a moment ago, there may be some question about who is leading CCWRO. Let me be completely clear. I am. I am operating CCWRO on a day-to-day basis under the direction of the board of directors. I have written all new CCWRO policies and updated existing policies since my tenure started 6 weeks ago. I have run staff meetings. I have approved timesheets and expenditures. I have supervised all contractors and volunteers. I have supervised the work of all staff. I have handled all interactions with the board. It is true that I have a long-standing relationship with Kevin Aslanian, and I am honored to replace him as the executive director. However, Kevin is no longer involved in CCWRO's governance structure or decisions in any way since he resigned from the board. I am not Kevin Aslanian's puppet, as accused. I am running the organization as the executive director as required by me, and in a way that is hyper-focused on compliance with state bar requirements. That is my number one goal. To make that completely clear, I have asked the board to change CCWRO's organizational chart that may have unintentionally implied otherwise to reflect that all employees report directly to me. Ms. Hune also mentioned the allegation that Kevin has represented clients improperly with CCWRO resources. Based on my investigation and understanding and knowledge of the situation, that is not true. Kevin did represent clients, but he did it on his own time with no CCWRO resources. And now there is a new board resolution to ensure that there is no question about that, because it bars Mr. Aslanian from representing individual clients even on his own time, unless they are properly referred to CCWRO with a request from a QLSP. I am confident that under my leadership, CCWRO can and will meet the conditions that the Commission Working Group has put forward, and I appreciate the Commission's Working Group's faith in me. CCWRO provides essential resources to the QLSPs of California, and I am honored to have the opportunity to continue to provide those resources in a quality manner and to work to make CCWRO the best organization possible in compliance with all state bar requirements. And I appreciate and I intend to justify the Commission Working Group members' faith in me to be able to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I see Ms. Sanchez has her hand up, but I believe we already had her give comment. Is that my memory serves? I think she already commented.
She hasn't commented, but we were not able to unmute her, right?
She did.
She did comment.
On
Oh,
behalf
okay.
of
So that's
CLI.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry. Excuse me then. So then.
Yeah, I thought she did. So I think it was just the hand was still up.
Oh, that's just the hand. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not seeing any more hands. Kim, on your side, are we good?
We're good.
Okay. So thank you everyone for public comment. Your feedback is appreciated. I'll move on to the chair's report. So first and foremost, I want to give a warm welcome to our new committee members, Catherine Blakemore and Ken Babcock, who's not here with us, I don't believe, or at least wasn't at roll, who are joining us from the Rules Committee, which is on pause for the remainder of the year. So we get some bonus squad with lots of experience to bring to GES. So thank you for joining us, Catherine. Thanks for being a part of our group here. Just the brief summary and readout of what we do, which I go through each time. The role of GES, Grant Eligibility and Support Committee, is to ensure comprehensive oversight and support of grantee compliance across all Legal Services Trust Fund Commission grant programs, while maintaining consistent standards and promoting accountability. Today, we have a few important agenda items, and you've heard some comments related to some of our agenda, which is pretty packed. But I want to highlight a couple overall eligibility recommendations regarding 2027 IOLTA and EAF grants, as well as outcomes of eligibility review conferences related to 2027 IOLTA and EAF eligibility. With those two highlighted and the introductions of our new members, I'm going to turn it over to Erica and I think maybe Dwan as well to give a staff report as they deem fit.
Just a brief update, but our current calendar, we have a meeting on October 29th.
Erica, you're a little bit low on the volume.
Can you hear me now?
I don't know if it's just me, but I can't hear her. Okay.
Yeah, you're a little choppy, Erica. I can hear you still, but that might be because I've got ear pods in my ears and you're real close.
Sure. I can speak louder. Is that any better? Okay, great.
Yeah, way better.
Just work on projection today. We wanted to update you on the calendar for this committee. As you know, we have a scheduled meeting on October 29th, but we also anticipate needing to schedule an additional committee meeting in late August or early September to address some additional care court funding that will become available. Dwan, I don't know if you have more details you want to share at this point, but we did just want to flag for you that we will be reaching out to committee members to try to organize a date that works for all in order to address that topic.
Yeah, I can give a little bit of background. So in the version of the Budget Act that was signed by the governor, there was actually an unexpected $3.5 million in additional funds for care court that's going to go to the public defender's office. So we are now in conversation with the Judicial Council and the Department of Finance to see if there's any more kind of guidance on how to distribute that. If there is not additional guidance, then the staff will come up with a plan and then we'll bring it back. And that's why we need to call this kind of ad hoc meeting so that you all can kind of approve the recommendation that would go to the commission on how to distribute the additional $3.5 million.
Always a good problem to have when there's additional funds to put out there for providing services. It's always nice to have that problem. All right, well, wrapping up the staff report, we're going to move over to the consent calendar, which will hopefully keep our agenda moving along. We have two items on the consent calendar. One is approval of the 2024-2025 Care, Court, and Homelessness Prevention for Reallocation budget deviations. And 4.2, which is request for delegation of authority to approve 2021, 2022 through 2024 homelessness prevention, HP3, second cycle reallocation budget deviations. At this time, I'm going to ask if anyone is interested in discussing either item, and barring any desire to discuss these items on the consent calendar and pull them to discussion, I would invite a motion to approve them.
Catherine moves your the motion to approve 4.1 and 4.2.
I'll second that. Oh.
I heard King first, so Judge Klein, you can get the next one. Can we do a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Babcock? Absent. Blakemore?
Yes.
Connolly? Absent. Gonzalez?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Pryor?
Yes.
Stalker?
Yes.
Falcon?
Yes.
7 yeses, no nos, the motion passes. Jason, I just wanted to flag that we skipped the open session minutes.
Oh, thank you. We'll roll back to open session minutes and I'll invite a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting on June 25th.
I'll move.
Second.
And we'll do roll.
I'm sorry, I missed who made the motion.
So I believe it was King first and Klein second.
Yes.
Thank you. Babcock? Absent. Blakemore?
Yes.
Connolly? Absent. Gonzalez?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Pryor?
Yes.
Stalker?
Yes.
Falcon?
Yes.
7 yeses, no nos, the motion passes.
Excellent. We'll move on to 5.1, approval of recommendation regarding Wage Justice Center's late application, late audit, and eligibility for 2027 IOLTA and EAF awards. I believe we have Alexa to present on that.
She'll be joining us momentarily. She's getting promoted to panelist.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Alexa Montalvo. I am a senior program analyst in the Office of Access and Inclusion, and I will present on item 5.1 today regarding Wage Justice Center's eligibility for 2027 IOLTA EAF funding. I will present on behalf of the ERC team, which included State Bar staff and Commissioners Angie King and Commissioner Bob Stalker. And I will invite those that attended, obviously including the commissioners, to chime in as needed at any time during this. So on July 2nd, 2026, an eligibility review conference, or ERC, was held to assess Wage Justice Center's eligibility for 2027 Interest on Lawyers' Trust Accounts, or IOLTA, and Equal Access Funds, EAF, grant funding. Specifically, the ERC evaluated whether the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission should accept Wage Justice Center's late audit extension request, accept its late and incomplete 2027 application, and determine whether the organization demonstrated sufficient quality controls to administer trust fund program grants. By the way of background, Wage Justice Center is a nonprofit corporation located in Los Angeles that serves low-wage workers in Southern California. Incorporated in 2007, its mission is to defend and promote the human rights of low-income workers in California. The organization has received IOLTA and EAF funding since 2016 and provides legal services through community education, direct representation, self-help services, and legislative and policy advocacy. During the 2025 review period, which is the relevant review period for 2027 IOLTA and EAF funding, Wage Justice Center reported 6 full-time employees. However, it currently operates with 3 full-time staff consisting of its executive director, legal director, and senior paralegal. These staffing changes provide important context for the compliance concerns that were evaluated during the ERC. The ERC evaluated the organization under the following State Bar rules. Rule 3.661B, requiring that the Commission evaluate an applicant's compliance history, including applications, grant reports, and other relevant information. Rule 3.661D, requiring QLSPs to maintain sufficient quality control procedures. Rule 3.680, governing timely and complete grant applications. And Rule 3.681, regarding service evaluations and timely reporting requirements. The ERC considered 3 primary issues in evaluating Wage Justice Center's eligibility for 2027 IOLTA and EAF funding. The first issue concerned Wage Justice Center's recent reporting compliance. Pursuant to State Bar Rule 3.681, grantees are required to submit timely financial and programmatic reports. During the 2025 grant cycle, Wage Justice Center submitted several required reports after the prescribed deadlines. And just to clarify, the reports for the 2025 grant cycle were due in 2026, so this year. Specifically, the 2025 EAF annual evaluation report was due February 27th and was not submitted until March 24th. The Main and Economic Benefits report was due April 1st and was submitted on May 15th. And the case summary report was also due April 1st and was submitted on May 16th. After each deadline passed, State Bar staff made multiple attempts to remind the organization of its reporting obligations, including reminder emails, phone calls, and offers of technical assistance. Despite those efforts, 2 of the required reports remained outstanding for more than 6 weeks beyond their due dates. These repeated delays, coupled with limited communication from the organization at the time, raised concerns regarding Wage Justice Center's ability to meet ongoing reporting obligations and maintain adequate administrative controls. In addition to the reporting delays, the organization experienced significant staffing changes beginning in 2024, including leadership transitions and reductions in legal and outreach staff. This resulted in the reassignment of its human resources manager into a senior paralegal to stabilize operation and services. Although Wage Justice Center indicated that it continued providing core legal services at the timing of these organizational changes, and corresponded with the pattern of late submissions and reduced communication observed. The second issue concerned Wage Justice Center's 2027 grant IELTA and EAF grant application. Under Rule 3.680, applicants must submit a timely and complete application, including audited financial statements from the previous year. For the 2027 funding cycle, the audited financial statements were due May 1st, 2026, and the complete IELTA EAF application was due May 15th. On April 24th, Wage Justice Center submitted a written request to extend submission of the audit through the application deadline, and staff approved that request under Rule 3.680E1B. Because the organization had requested audit extensions during each of the previous 3 application cycles, and in light of its recent reporting history, staff requested additional information explaining the need for the extension. I just want to note that the explanation was not required for staff to approve the extension request, as the extension request was to the application deadline. Any extension request made for after the application deadline needs to be approved by the commission. Following the submission of the application, which was submitted at 11:39 p.m. on May 15th, after the prescribed deadline, staff determined that the application was incomplete because it did not include the required audited financial statements. Instead, the organization uploaded a prior year profit and loss statement. Following the submission, staff made attempts by email and phone to obtain explanations regarding both the late application and the missing audit. After those efforts were unsuccessful, at its May 21st meeting, the GES committee, you all, addressed where it was addressing the late application submissions, deferred the acceptance of the application and directed staff to convene an ERC to further evaluate the organization's eligibility. Staff notified Wage Justice Center of the committee's decision and reiterated request, to which Wage Justice Center explained that it was operated with limited administrative structure, but was beginning to engage in planning efforts to strengthen administrative capacity. The third issue was whether Wage Justice Center had sufficient quality controls and internal procedures to oversee the administration of trust fund program grants as required by Rule 3.661D. The organization's recent reporting compliance history raised broader concerns regarding its internal administrative capacity, specifically the pattern of late reporting, incomplete submissions, and limited communication suggested that Wage Justice Center's administrative systems may no longer be sufficient to support its to meet the grant compliance obligations. Moving on to the ERC and the discussion that was had and the analysis that was determined by the ERC team. During the ERC, we discussed each of these issues, contributing to better understand the context around this reporting and compliance history and issues. With respect to the reporting delays, late audit and late application, just to backtrack for a second, Wage Justice Center's executive director attended that ERC on behalf of the organization. And she explained that the significant staffing reductions, leadership transitions, and absence of dedicated administrative personnel created an internal bottleneck for grant admin. Responsibility for preparing audit materials and compliance reporting had become concentrated with the executive director, while the organization prioritized maintaining client services. Wage Justice Center acknowledged that it should have communicated these capacity constraints to state bar staff before deadlines lapse, rather than allowing deadlines to pass without explanation. They also noted ongoing difficulties in hiring legal and administrative staff. Wage Justice Center explained that prior to hiring their current legal director, there were difficulties in the search. And additionally, an unsuccessful attempt in hiring a paralegal to join the organization led to the reassignment of the human resources manager that was previously mentioned. The executive director acknowledged that competing priorities posed a significant challenge and stated that in hindsight, it should have communicated its capacity constraints earlier. And related to that, when asked about when the audit would be completed, because at the time of the ERC, we did not have yet the final audit, there was not a date provided. However, after the ERC had concluded. Later that day, on July 2nd, we did receive the audit, and staff determined that there was no material findings or issues identified in the audit. So that then remedied the incomplete application piece now that we had the complete audit to review. We also discussed the organization's case management system. Wage Justice Center explained that the challenges with its current CMS required manual extraction of data for required grant reports, contributing to the delays. And it advised that it had started to consult with outside experts regarding improvements to their case management system and intended to present those recommendations to their board. And we further discussed corrective measures to strengthen the organization's administrative capacity. Wage Justice Center advised that it was exploring engagement from outside consultants with grant reporting and compliance experience, and evaluating broader administrative outsourcing and reassessing internal workflows. The organization acknowledged that the additional administrative support would be necessary to improve future compliance with grant requirements. Although the organization has experienced recent repeated delays in reporting and application submissions, the ERC team found that Wage Justice Center was forthcoming in explaining the operational constraints and acknowledged the need for improved administrative systems and communication. And I think at the same time, the ERC determined that corrective actions were needed to strengthen internal controls to ensure future compliance with trust fund program requirements. I want to note that the memo that was posted for this also referred to subsequent events that followed the ERC, specific to reporting corrections that were needed and materials that were missing for its upcoming monitoring visit. But I am glad to report that the reporting corrections that were needed have since been made, and we are in the works to reschedule and obtain all the materials for their monitoring visit this year. I think with that, I would be happy to invite the commissioners and Commissioner King or Commissioner Stalker if you wanted to add anything before we go into discussion.
Go ahead.
Well, she did a great job of summarizing the problems. And the director seemed very sincere in wanting to make the changes, and they were just, the capacity. They have only 3 staff and they're trying to do everything. And hopefully now that's good news that they did in fact comply with some of the later problems that came up, and that's all been taken care of, and the audit was clean. That's good to news also. And in connection with this, I'm happy with the way the report came out, and I support the recommendation. But I kind of wanted to make a comment in general. It seems that, and I've raised this before, the main problem that the grantees have is in keeping track of the organizational stuff, the administrative piece, like making sure that their case management system collects the right data and it's turned in on time, and on and on and on. And it seems like the problems are increasing as our society's reliance on digital everything is increasing. And I wonder if they're connected, and whether that's something we could sort of philosophize about at some point as to how to make things easier for people in general, because it seems the problems are increasing. But I do recommend, I support the recommendations.
Thank you.
I agree. I agree with Angie. Angie noted, I think today, that the letter that we send to them needs to be a strongly worded letter. I mean, they need to know that this is the past behavior is not acceptable, and they really need to continue the changes that they've been able to implement over the last couple of months. So.
Thank you for that. I'm happy to field any questions that the members might have.
Catherine?
Thank you. I'm supportive of the recommendation and thank the staff and the 2 commission members that worked on this. I notice in the recommendation, I think it's the last item, but they're not numbered, but the last item refers to significant departures from required timelines, grant compliance, issues identified during monitoring visits or ongoing non-compliance may result in termination of existing funding or finding ineligible. So is everyone clear? I think I feel like a piece that's helpful to people is to be clear about exactly what they have to do. And I'm just asking that as staff and the members of the review committee that everyone's clear about what that criteria is so there isn't confusion down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that question. I think to that end, the staff would, begin to draft what the letter would look like in the cap. And I think an important note is that we wanted to ensure that the commission be the one to approve what is in the cap. So just to reemphasize your point that we want everyone to be on the same page as to what the expectations are. And then just based on the different metrics of the cap, the ongoing monitoring by staff to ensure that they're meeting these deadlines. But that's not, just to say that we aren't going to propose anything in the cap that wouldn't be approved by the commission and made clear to the organization. I don't know did that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Totally.
Any other questions? All right. Alexa, do we have, I think Selena has one. Go ahead.
This is more of a comment in response to Angie's concerns. I think a lot of smaller IELTS-funded organizations don't understand the administrative allowance. And I've heard from many organizations that they put everything in personnel or they put everything in programs. And I think that's unfortunately resulted in an under-resourcing of administrative needs for organizations to start collecting this data in a way that they can really roll it up easily. Because Angie, you're right. There's so much data being asked for in a way that organizations really need a little bit more of administrative backbone to collect that. So I think it would be helpful for newer organizations and smaller organizations just to have a little bit more guidance on what administrative costs are allowed. Even if it's just pointing them to the right part in Smart Simple or in the grant application or telling them where it is, I think that would help these smaller programs know that they can actually invest in the administrative staffing or technology needed for reporting.
Thank you.
I'll just quickly jump in on that because I think it's relevant. I think for all of the right and honorable reasons, our grantees generally take it as a mark of pride to put, as many of their dollars into providing services as possible. And as a result, it can be seen as almost a bad thing to put it into admin or that it's not where they should be putting it. But I agree, Angie, with your comments as well, that some of this stuff is administratively complicated. And if you don't have the resources there, especially as you're competing for grants under the state bar, the rules are, they're not the simplest, right? You have to have things buttoned up. And if you are just focused on the front end of the shop and providing services, it's easy to lose sight of all of the T's that need to be crossed and I's that need to be dotted and the systems that need to be in place. But as Selena mentioned, the importance of the administrative component and allowance is there for that purpose, is because we know it's complicated. So definitely grantees should be being mindful of that and making sure they have that squared away and sorted one way or another.
Great, thank you all. I have the resolutions for us to look at and vote on. I'm going to share screen, and apologies for my troubles with doing that in advance. Okay, are we able to see this? Is this
Sort
big
of.
enough?
I can see it.
Okay.
It is a little on the small side, but I think that's might be the only way you can fit both resolutions in
Unfortunately,
there.
we could do it like maybe two at a time if that's a little bit easier.
I mean, but let's just start with what you've got here, and
Okay, sure.
and I think the documentation is out there for all of our committee members. So I will open the floor for inviting a motion or comments on the proposed motion, and we'll see where that gets us for now.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
That is King, then Klein.
Thank you.
Let's go
Babcock,
ahead.
Yes.
Blakemore,
Yes.
Connolly, absent. Gonzalez,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Pryor,
Yes.
Stalker,
Yes.
Falcon.
Yes.
8 yeses, no nos, the motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alexa. Real quick before we move on, I saw that Ken Babcock has joined us. So Ken, you missed it earlier, but I was doing an introduction. Thank you very much for joining our committee here, and we're happy to have you.
Thank you. Very happy to be here. Sorry I was late. I had another Zoom I couldn't get out of.
It happens. All right, so we'll move on to 5.2, which is approval of recommendations regarding vital immigrant defense advocacy and services eligibility for 2027 IOLTA and EAF. And I believe Mara is here to present on that item.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. My name is Mara Vibey. I'm a senior program analyst in the Office of Access and Inclusion, and I am here to present on vital immigrant defense advocacy and services, ERC, and a recommendation to approve funding for the 2027 year. So a bit of background, Vital Immigrant Defense Advocacy and Services, or VIDAS, was founded in 2014, and it is a nonprofit providing immigration legal services in Marin, Napa, Solano, and Sonoma counties. The Department of Justice authorizes VIDAS to provide no or low cost immigration legal services through its DOJ accredited program for non-attorney staff. This is its recognition and accreditation program. VIDAS is a first-time applicant for the 2027 IOLTA and EAF grant funding. The governing authorities for the ERC are State Bar Rule 3680E2 and 3681, which require applicants to disclose internal control information and maintain control sufficient to protect against fraud, misappropriation, and embezzlement. VIDAS disclosed in their application for 2027 funding an instance of misconduct by a former employee, and therefore the State Bar held an ERC with Commissioner Pryor and Judge Klein, VIDA's executive director, and their board treasurer, and Erica Carl attended the ERC as well, and this ERC was held on July 6th of this year. The nature of the incident is a bit unique. So as background, going back a few years, in 2019, VIDAS hired a paralegal, which we'll refer to as the employee. She became a DOJ accredited representative in 2021, which authorized her to submit applications to U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, UCCIS, under general attorney supervision. The employee had retained a cell phone and computer from her prior employer, with whom she had worked for, I believe, nearly 20 years. And she continued to use those devices in her VIDAS employment. When former clients would contact the employee from her prior employer, they would call her on that cell phone, and the employee then would agree to represent the clients and accepted cash or money order payments directly to herself for legal services and government fees, reimbursements, and this was done outside of VIDAS's systems. Vitas became aware of this situation in late October of 2025 when a community member affected by the employee's conduct contacted Vitas and alerted them to the employee's practices. Vitas then promptly opened an investigation the same day. They retained outside employment counsel. They then briefly suspended and then terminated the employee. They then subsequently recovered the former employee's cell phone, computer, and client files, cross-referenced contacts and notes from the recovered devices against UCCIS filings and its own records, and they continue to monitor the recovered cell phone for additional affected individuals. They also consulted their board treasurer, an external auditor, and bookkeeping staff as part of a forensic fiscal review. And their fiscal year 2025 external audit found no irregularities in Vitas accounts or financial statements. There were approximately 15 individuals who were affected by this former employee's conduct. These individuals had paid roughly $14,000 in legal service fees and reimbursements for government filing fees directly to the former employee, but no Vitas funds were involved. A senior Vitas attorney has met individually with each of the affected clients for a full case review, and Vitas filed unfiled matters, covered fees, offered referrals, and they continue to monitor all affected cases. In terms of adjustments they have made to their internal controls, they have taken additional steps to increase those controls and to improve organizational processes and decrease the risk of other malfeasance in the future. They've reclassified the employee's former role and require attorney review of every filing submitted to UCCIS from any Vitas office. They've formalized a dual control cash handling policy, issue all laptops and phone numbers directly through the organizational systems. They've restructured case handling to require at least 3 staff members on each case and are hiring a dedicated finance manager who now conducts monthly financial reviews jointly with the executive director and the board treasurer. So I'm happy to answer any additional questions that you have at this time, or Commissioner Pryor or Judge Klein, if you have anything additional you would like to add regarding this ERC, I yield the floor to you.
Well, I'll just briefly state, I thought the responses from the people with the organization were almost a model of how to deal with these kinds of issues. Forthright, I don't know what other compliments to say, but I was impressed.
I agree. They're very well prepared, very honest, straightforward. I was impressed that they immediately started investigating right away, suspended the employee, and then terminated the employee shortly thereafter. Completely restructured how cases are reviewed, as well as an attorney has to review everything before it's filed with USCIS. And yes, and then they had the outside audit that didn't find any irregularities. So it's a bit of a unique circumstance. I don't see it. I don't think it's foreseeable. I mean, anything can happen, but it doesn't seem like it will occur again. So yes, I was overall very impressed with them. And they're continuing to monitor I don't know if that was said, they're continuing to monitor the phone, the cell phone, and the laptop to see if additional clients may have been harmed.
Catherine?
Catherine, I see you have your, yeah.
Agree with everything everyone has said about this. I think the only thing I was left with is there any obligation of the people that looked at the bar, for having looked into this, to address any unauthorized practice of law? It feels to me like this person had, as I read the memo, had the authority to take certain actions as an authorized representative, but they had to be reviewed by an attorney, which was not happening. And so I'm just raising that for the bar's consideration of whether there's anything else that needs to happen. But no disagreement with the recommendation.
I appreciate that, Catherine.
She had a response to that. Maybe Ms. Pryor, you remember, but something they certainly considered, and they had some concerns about, how that would affect the organization. I don't remember the answer, but I remember at the time I thought it was a thoughtful response. It wasn't something they just ignored.
In terms of the organization pursuing it, or in terms of the state bar considering it?
Reporting it to the state bar or law enforcement. Do you remember their response?
They were handling it as an internal HR matter. And I don't know whether or not additional steps will be taken. It would be outside of the recommendation regarding the ERC at any rate.
I guess I'll say that I didn't think there was any attempt to sweep it under the rug or hide it.
No.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that it changed anything in the recommendation that you all made. I thought they were thorough and comprehensive. I was just asking that additional question about whether something else needed to be done. That's all.
This former employee was at the time DOJ accredited, so they could submit their documentation without attorney review. Not now, because they've changed that.
I thought there were only certain things. That's why I was asking it. My impression from reading the memo was there were some things they could do without attorney review, but not everything. And then there's some things they never filed anyway and didn't have anyway. We don't need to go down a rabbit hole. I just wanted to ask the question, and people can decide if there's some other action to be taken. So sorry for getting us off track.
It's my understanding that the employee's accreditation status is attached to the organization. And so
Erica, I think we can't hear you. The volume got worse than before.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Do you want to walk over to the conference room or
Can you hear me now?
Try unplugging your headphones, maybe.
I did, yeah.
Oh.
So Erica, if I can leap off of what you started saying, and then if I've gone off track, if you can redirect me, and I'd appreciate it. It sounded like where you were heading was that the former employee's accreditation status with DOJ was tied to their employment with VITAS. And as that does not exist anymore, they are no longer accredited. So that answers part of the concern. And then I believe any possible further steps would be kind of an ongoing discussion outside of the ERC. Erica, I hope that's where you were headed.
I agree with everything you said, and I feel like I've gotten us off track. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the recommendations.
Okay. Well, the recommendation stands as resolved that the LSTFC GES committee recommends that recommends to LSTFC that VITAS be eligible for 2027 IELTA and EAF funding.
Thank you for reading that. That's what I'm moving.
Thank you.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
King seconds, and we'll do roll call.
Babcock?
Yes.
Blakemore?
Yes.
Connolly?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Pryor?
Yes.
Stalker?
Abstain.
Falcon?
Yes.
8 yeses, 1 abstention. The motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mara. We're going to move on to 5.3, approval of recommendation regarding Community Lawyer Inc.'s eligibility for 2027 IELTA and EAF, and I believe Sylvia is going to present on that one.
everyone. I will share my screen.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It looks really cool. So I'm going to ask, you also speak Spanish? Okay, that might be helpful in terms of, I've also noticed.
Got some echo going or background conversation going on. I don't know if that's Sylvia at you, or I can't see who else is talking.
I have a colleague in front of me who's on a call.
Comfortable with like Spanish speakers or speaking Spanish. So maybe one of the things we can do is a specific focus group.
Do you want us to call the next one, or is he going to be going the whole time?
Yeah, Sylvie, do you want to move into a room? Sorry, we're all in the office and we split up into different rooms for sound, but now it's not actually helping.
You should mind move my laptop to mind a phone and I can't connect you.
Okay. I'm sorry to be, can we get a 5-minute or 10-minute tech break because we're all having really a lot of issues? Jason, would that be okay? And then we can reconvene.
Yeah, it's okay. I just, as you know, my hard stop's at 4:45. So
Okay. Just give us 10 minutes and maybe at 1:15 we'll come back on just so we can fix all the sound issues for the staff.
okay, sounds good. Thanks. Fine.
Can you say the?
Can see your 5.4 and can hear you very clearly now.
Excellent. Thank you. Shall we get started or?
We said low 15, so let's
okay. Sure.
wait for we got a couple walking back. I see Stalker walking back and Judge Klein is away from camera, so give him a second.
Sure.
And I said 4:45 earlier. It's actually 5:45, but then that's 3 hours later than all of you. So I'm still disoriented.
We're grateful for the extra hour.
I'm quite certain we'll need it too, so. We're at 15. Why don't you go ahead and get started in the interest of time, Erica? Sure. For all of you who are here, we called an audible to move 5.4 up while Sylvia works on her audio issues, and Erica's going to present on a recommendation regarding Coalition of California Welfare Rights Organizations 2027 interest on IELTA and Equal Access Funds grant eligibility.
Thank you. Jason, and as Jason mentioned, I'll be talking about the Eligibility Review Conference and the work of Coalition of California Welfare Rights Organizations as it relates to their application for 2027 IELTA and EAF grants. The working group for this topic was, on the commission side, was Catherine Blakemore and Judge Wayne Gutierrez, and then myself and my colleague Lana Martin participated on the State Bar staff side. So just a little bit of background. CCWRO is a support center that provides public benefits, law training, technical assistance, and advocacy support to qualified legal services projects. It's been a grantee receiving IELTA and then Equal Access Fund grants for over 40 years, starting in 1984. The organization is exempt from our deeming process, which for support centers that were not in existence prior to December 31st, 1980, they have to be deemed of special need every 3 years by qualified legal services projects. This is an organization that is exempt from that and so does not participate in deeming. They receive primarily funding from the State Bar. Its outside resources and funding in the past 2 years were in the few $1,000 range from other sources besides these two grants. The organization this year, as far as we know, has spent none of its $1.4 million IELTA fund allowance or grant. Their corporate expenditure last year was about $1 million. So we estimate that the organization currently has about $1.5 to $2 million in unspent State Bar funds. Just noting that the organization is not running a deficit or in a state of depletion in terms of the resources available to it. CCWRO does have a history of governance and internal control shortcomings. We've conducted monitoring visits each year of the past 3 years where new and recurring issues have come up. Serious issues were identified over the course of the monitoring visits that have taken place in the past 3 decades. So there's been 11 total monitoring visits during that time, and a number of issues have either come up or recurred during that period. So the organization has also participated in 6 eligibility review conferences in the past 15 years. So in terms of this year's application cycle, the organization submitted its application for 2027 IELTA EAF funding on May 14th. And then on June 17th, the working group held the eligibility review conference with the staff from CCWRO. In reviewing the application that was submitted in May, staff noted that it is substantially similar to the application that was submitted for 2026 funding, which in general is not necessarily a red flag, but given this organization's issues that have come up and concerns that have been raised and the attention and corrective action plan that was in place and the monitoring that has been implemented for this organization, there would have been perhaps some expectation of additional information. For example, any indication of changes that the organization has made to address compliance issues in the past few years. It didn't really expand in sections regarding staffing or organizational changes about improvements or any updates that it has made in recent months or years. When we participated in the ERC with the organization, CCWRO was represented by several staff and board members. So Stephen Goldberg, the new executive director, was on the call. Kevin Aslanian, the former executive director, was there, who has moved into a new position as the director of government relations. Their directing attorney was present, and so was their new board chair. In terms of recent history, starting in 2022, the State Bar identified several compliance issues regarding CCWRO's administration of grants provided to it through the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission. In 2022, the organization was receiving homelessness prevention funding, HP2 and HP3 grants, and staff learned that the organization was not segregating its time or activities when reporting on these grants. Not only was this a violation of federal grant requirements, it also didn't meet the state bar's quality control standards. The organization was commingling potentially double billed work to these grants. It was billing non-qualifying work to these grants, both work that was outside of the scope and work that had not been demonstrated to actually have been completed. And after several rounds of edits and technical assistance, there were still revisions necessary in the reporting that was provided to the state bar. The organization also had a cost allocation methodology that was based on estimates in terms of its time by fund records. And the state bar staff provided significant technical assistance and opportunities to correct reports when working with the organization. Staff spent hundreds of hours on the work of this organization to assist it in coming into compliance, but was of the opinion that essentially there reached a point where it was no longer technical assistance, and it was almost incumbent on state bar staff to have to take the necessary steps to make changes for the organization to bring it in compliance, as it was unable to do that on its own with proper support. Something else of note in terms of the assistance provided to the organization, there were no efforts in terms of their spending to expand their administrative spending in recent years. So they received additional funding in terms of increases in funding in the past few years of $318,000 from 23 to 24, and over $1 million from 24 to 25. But their budgeting didn't indicate additional efforts or resources going to the administrative piece that required the most support. And then in 23 and 24, the Commission held eligibility review conferences with CCWRO to assess whether their internal controls were sufficient to administer state bar funds. Other issues that arose in terms of that application process and those reviews are that their submitted financial statements had a 15-point discrepancy between what they reported on their audit and what was reported to the state bar in terms of their expenditures in the prior year. There were also discrepancies between their reported and actual IELTA and EAF expenditures in 2022, and a failure to meet the audit deadlines. Other issues that arose in 2024 with our eligibility review conference wasn't that we found that staff was unaware of reporting and deliverables requirements, supervision structure, and the timekeeping system, as well as missing some monitoring visit interviews, and that the board was unaware of ongoing compliance issues, potential conflicts of interest, or the need for succession planning. We were also in receipt of late, inaccurate, and incomplete grant reports, and a failure to complete their corrective action plan, which had been implemented in 2024, that resulted in the return of almost $60,000 of unspent funds. State bar staff at that point made it clear to the organization that developing infrastructure to address these issues was necessary to continue receiving state bar funds. So then when reviewing these issues at the Commission level in terms of determining eligibility for grants in 23 and 24, the Commission found CCWRO ineligible for the following year's funding unless it met conditions through its corrective action plan and additional monitoring visits to take place. So the corrective action plan in 2024 was for the mishandling of the homelessness prevention funds, and in 2025, the corrective action plan focused on things like the need for improved oversight and governance from the board, improvements in executive leadership, and changes necessary to demonstrate services effectiveness. So as part of the corrective action plan for 2025, a monitoring visit was required of the organization. State bar staff waited several months to hold this monitoring visit to give the organization an opportunity to come into compliance, to demonstrate its progress over several months based on the corrective action plan, and so held that monitoring visit on November 3rd to assess whether CCWRO had sufficiently improved on the compliance concerns of the prior 3 years. issues originally identified by staff in the 2000s have reemerged and remain partially or fully unresolved following that 2025 visit. The list here regarding a failure to deduct non-qualifying expenditures, limited evaluation methods, inadequate board oversight, no formal staff or executive director evaluation procedures, a lack of conflict of interest policy, inadequate timekeeping systems, and no succession plan for the executive director. When taken as a whole, these issues appear to be a lack of systems or staff capable of safeguarding public funds, despite significant increases in year-to-year funding that would have enabled the organization to either hire or contract out for more support as needed. Improvements that we did notice during the monitoring visit or since that monitoring visit were that the organization has contracted outside accounting services and has improved in its timeliness in its applications, reports, and audits. So given the timing of the 2025 monitoring visit, which took place in November of 25, and the timeline that the organization had to respond to the findings from that visit, we received a response from CCWRO in March of 2026 regarding the findings, and upon review of the organization's written response, found that it was still lacking in terms of its responsiveness and completeness in terms of complying with the corrective action plan. So it was determined that as part of the application process for 2027 funding that we would hold an eligibility review conference with the organization to focus on questions related to whether CCWRO has sufficient board governance and executive leadership to implement and enforce policies and procedures to resolve recurring issues with fiscal and operational compliance, and whether the organization maintains adequate quality control procedures to administer trust fund program grants. During this conference on June 17th, we met, as I mentioned before, with CCWRO's new executive director, who was a former board chair of the organization. He had assumed this role one day prior to the eligibility review conference and reported during the ERC that he had served the organization in a voluntary capacity in the prior week or two before he formally entered his role as executive director to assist the organization with some of its areas for improvement. And during the ERC itself, in conversation with the organization, Mr. Goldberg had stated that the former executive director would not be supervising staff. He reported 2 board resignations, including one of the former executive director. He acknowledged that CCWRO had not fulfilled its services effectiveness survey as part of the corrective action plan, and reported that since November, all board members had completed training, a board required training regarding their fiduciary obligations. At the ERC, we also spoke with the board chair, who reported commitment to serving the organization during a time of transition. But some of the concerns that were raised during that discussion were that she couldn't name the board secretary and seemed to rely on the now former executive director to do things like complete minutes. She seemed somewhat unfamiliar with board processes. She was relatively new to the board at that time, and did not seem aware of or particularly concerned about potential conflicts of interest regarding members of the board. There were 2 related family members on the board, one who's the vice president and one who was responsible for fiscal oversight of the board. Based on feedback during the ERC, we were told later that one of those board members resigned to eliminate any actual or perceived conflict there. After the ERC, staff submitted several requests to CCWRO to provide additional documentation like timesheets and updated policies and bylaws, which the organization was very responsive in following up with our requests. So they provided timesheets that included the required level of detail and documentation of supervisor approval. There were several updated policies that Mr. Goldberg reported about at the ERC related to a conflict of interest and the provision of direct legal services, which I believe he also spoke about during his public comment. There was concern from other staff at CCWRO from the monitoring visit that Mr. Islanian was providing direct legal services that were not sufficiently separated from his role as the executive director of the organization, that there was concern that there was a blurring of the lines about whether he was performing that work in his capacity as the ED or on his own time, and whether clients, for example, would be aware that he was doing this in his private capacity rather than in association with his role with CCWRO. So there is a new board policy related to that, prohibiting it. Updated bylaws and a new board succession plan were submitted, as well as revised executive director and directing attorney succession plans, and meeting minutes that date back to July 23rd, 2025. So that is a summary of the additional information that we've procured from CCWRO since the ERC last month. In terms of the governing authorities that are relevant to this inquiry, we're looking at the Business and Professions Code Section 6217 regarding quality services and professional standards, Business and Professions Code Section 6224 regarding the determination of eligibility for trust fund program funding, State Bar Rules 3.661D about quality control safeguards, Rules 3.680E2, regarding the maintenance of internal quality control procedures and fiscal controls and procedures, and then State Bar Rule 3.681CD regarding quality control procedures, oversight, and records management. So as I noted, there are ongoing unresolved concerns regarding governance with this organization, the leadership structure that has been in place, and the ongoing involvement of the former executive director indicate persistent structural challenges in maintaining internal controls. Some indications of progress are that they hired a deputy director in 2025 and a new executive director in 2026, but as reported during the public comment, we heard from their former deputy director who departed the organization within a short period of time due to her concerns about lack of responsiveness to improvements that she felt were necessary to bring the organization into a state of compliance. The organization has hired a new executive director whose tenure has been about the past 6 weeks. The board has also adopted a detailed and adequate board succession plan, but there are concerns still about succession planning for the executive director, which the plan that was provided was only 2 pages long and had minimal descriptions of things like the duties or the necessary steps to take in a period of transition. And there's also a new accounting policies and procedures manual. So those are the indications of progress with the organization, but in terms of the lack of progress, as mentioned, the deputy director's departure, the new executive director was a former board chair of this organization from 2003 to 2012. During his tenure, the commission noted challenges with the organization regarding poor governance and excessive deference to the executive director. And the executive director provided meeting minutes to us when reviewing them, copies of meeting minutes that were different depending on when we received them. So we have copies of meeting minutes from last year that we received as part of a monitoring visit, that when we received them subsequently as part of the package that we received from CCWRO recently, there were some discrepancies between those 2 documents. Mr. Goldberg explained it as the original document we received were notes that were drafted regarding meeting minutes, and the one that we received most recently was the actual copy of the minutes once they had been finalized. But there were a substantial number of differences between the 2 documents such that it calls into question for staff the reliability or the accuracy of the information that's been provided at various stages. For example, the notes that we received initially had more details regarding the direct services question that I mentioned and lacked a description or detail about the votes on voting items, whereas the copy that we received eliminated that discussion about direct services but also provided the votes. And so I think that those changes, without having them noted and not making us aware at the time that they were submitted about what was being submitted, if they were not intended to be final notes, raises some questions about, as I mentioned, the accuracy of the information as well as the oversight of the information that's being shared. So, in addition, the conflict of interest question came up and was addressed regarding family-related financials, approvals of and board member involvement in client advocacy while operating a for-profit benefits business. So the board has since adopted a conflict of interest policy and a policy barring provision of direct legal services by CCWRO staff. But in terms of implementing the conflict of interest policy, for example, during the ERC, it was raised the question about potential conflicts between family relationships of board members that hadn't occurred to members of the board or the staff to address prior to it being raised during the ERC. It has been addressed since that ERC, but was not proactively addressed by the organization before meeting with commissioners and state bar staff on that point. Additional concerns regarding governance are the executive director evaluations remain superficial, reflecting continued weaknesses in board oversight and accountability. So for quite some time, evaluations were not conducted at all. Now they have been conducted, but they comprise a few questions, essentially rating questions on a Likert scale, and then a few open-ended responses that contained one sentence each. So in terms of the meaningfulness of the feedback provided to the executive director, that still remains to be seen. And then despite increased 2025 funding, minutes that were reviewed showed that the organization was emphasizing holding on to funds for future use rather than using them currently to address urgent administrative needs. Ongoing unresolved concerns regarding services effectiveness. So as a non-deemed support center, CCWRO, as I mentioned, does not go through the process of being voted of special need by qualified legal services projects. They're not subject to that requirement. Whereas some support centers every 3 years need to receive a majority vote of QLSPs to be found eligible. So we don't have insight from the deeming process, for example, about QLSP opinions on service effectiveness for this organization. It also, under State Bar Rule 3.680B, support centers are required to establish priorities after consulting the legal services attorneys and relevant stakeholders. This has been an area of feedback and lack of progress with the organization. The organization relies on limited biennial QLSP surveys to obtain information. And, despite recommendations from the State Bar and the Commission, has not really moved the needle on developing meaningful evaluation methods. So one example is that their 24 to 25 survey produced only 5 responses. And not only is this a very low response rate, we have over 90 qualified legal services projects in California, but the responses to the survey, at least the ones that we have seen, for example, the ones that were provided as part of the public comment from CCWRO that was submitted in advance of this meeting, they demonstrate responses that are fairly concerning in some aspects. And I think we wanted to just take a moment to consider some of the feedback that's been provided about this organization from QLSPs directly. I don't have it in front of me. If
I think you'll have to stop sharing
Okay.
your screen, Erica, and then I can share mine.
Great, thank you.
All right. Yeah, so this was the survey responses provided in public comment. We can go to page 27. We highlighted a few examples. There were a few comments about the organization's materials potentially not providing correct information. We can go down to page 27. Potentially more concerning, there were some comments about comments that were perceived by one survey respondent at least to be insensitive and perhaps not productive for stakeholder engagement. And further down on this page, apologies for the scrolling, there were concerns about stories being shared in newsletters, which go out to thousands of recipients. Potentially, it's not clear the stories were shared without the customer's consent or the client's consent. And that one person noted that they should cease sending out client identifying information to thousands of folks, even if they do have the client permissions.
Thank you. So I think that, let me bring the PowerPoint back up, but I think that underscores some of the concerns that staff had, which was that we don't have a ton of insight into the perspective of QLSPs on the service effectiveness of this organization. And then the information that we do have, not all of it is positive and raise real questions about judgment and regard for things like confidentiality. So the need to both expand and improve the quality of its evaluation methods, it remains an issue. And there was an explicit requirement in the corrective action plan for 2025 to retain funds that the organization engage QLSPs in setting service priorities, and it's not clear that standard has been met at this point. In terms of new concerns regarding the provision of direct legal services, I think we've covered this a bit already, but there were interviews during the monitoring visit and board minutes that indicated that CCWRO may have provided direct client representation without deducting those related expenses as required by state bar rules, and that the former executive director had engaged in providing assistance at hearings, for example, as the authorized representative, and by responding to calls to CCWRO about upcoming hearings. And I do want to be clear that CCWRO has not conceded that this happened on staff time, on CCWRO's time, or using its resources. But other staff members have contradicted that, so that remains an open question. But then to be responsive to the concerns raised without conceding that this actually occurred, the board has passed a resolution to prohibit the former executive director from engaging in such activities while he is in his role, or while he is working with the organization still. So the primary concern that this eligibility review conference was intended to address was the whether CCWRO presently maintains quality control standards and internal control procedures to receive and manage state bar funds. I think, and we've cited some of the governing authorities to that effect here, but I think the question is ultimately, it's clear that the new executive director has indicated his intent for the organization to come into compliance and to take steps to address ongoing deficiencies. But the question is whether the organization at this present moment maintains the necessary quality control standards and internal control procedures to be in receipt of and manage state bar funds. So, as you saw in the memo, the commissioners on this working group and staff reached different conclusions based on the governing authorities, and we wanted to make sure that the committee hears about both of the recommendations and the rationale supporting each of them. And so we're going to turn it over to Judge Wayne Gutierrez and Catherine to talk about the commissioner's recommendations before going through the staff recommendation.
Okay. Thank you, Erica. That was a very thorough summary and reflects all of the work and more, frankly, that the staff has done. So when the commissioners, when the ERC was conducted, the commissioners did note that there seems to be a moving target here in terms of the organization CCWRO. There have been some changes, affirmative actions that they have taken, and they're moving from the commissioner's perspective in the right direction. Many of the compliance requirements there have been actions taken to address them. But the primary one that remains outstanding was fiscally related. And so our recommendation in terms of what action to take focuses on the remedy, if you will. But let me go through this slide. So the slide shows the first bullet point is that we did note the governance improvements. They have a new executive director. They have some new board members. They have removed Mr. Aslanian as a board member and removed his supervision. They have one of the new board members is a CPA has some accounting background, which we thought was good in terms of the fiscal concerns. And then the current new board president is independent, so to speak, not like an existing staff member that got elevated to the board. She is completely independent, and she demonstrated a very sincere commitment to making change and an awareness of for example, the supervision problems, the conflict of interest problems, and demonstrated a commitment to recruit new independent board members. And then the new really brand new Mr. Goldberg, executive director in that capacity, also demonstrated his intent to really make an affirmative change, to oversee the staff himself. And then we were very clear about the need that the board oversees the executive director. So there's checks and balances built into the system. And so now I can speak for myself. Catherine's going to take the next slide, but I will say that from my perspective, I thought that the right remedy was not to deny outright the 2027 eligibility funds, but to impose very tight controls with contingencies for them to meet. Like for the first quarter, they receive a certain amount of money, and then if they don't meet the contingencies, then they will face whatever suspension or whatever termination of funds. Secondarily, I did not think that we should allow existing funds that they currently have, which had some fiscal management issues, to be retained. One of the recommendations from the commissioner perspective was to have an independent audit of those funds, and depending on the outcome of those findings of an independent audit, some of those funds may need to be repaid. So the recommendation from the commissioner perspective is strict conditions for eligibility for 2027, IOLTA and EAF funding. And if there is a failure to meet the deliverables with those contingencies, then that would result in a termination of the 2027 remaining funding. And then if they don't want to adhere to the conditions, then they would not then be eligible for 2027 funding. Thank you, Erica.
And then I think Catherine will walk us through the specific recommendations from the commissioners.
Thanks, Erica. And I also want to acknowledge all of Lana and Erica's work. I will say that when I was on the grants, I guess it was called Grants Committee before, this organization often had difficulties then. Erica identified some of them. And honestly, had this been a decision in 2025, I might have reached a different conclusion. But I want to say that the intention here is to be clear about what is expected and what the new executive director has to deliver on, so that this organization has a fair chance of meeting the expectations that are required by the bar. And so this is what we are proposing as conditions, which is, my colleague Judge Wayne Gutierrez said, if they don't agree to these, then they don't get their funding. And if they don't meet these conditions, then funding can be terminated at any time during the grant year. The first is that the executive director has to complete a nonprofit governance and ethics training by mid-October, so that it is clear that he has the knowledge base to do what is expected. There is specific timelines about completing and submitting a survey of QLSPs, the report on the effectiveness of services. There's a requirement also for the same date in March of an independent evaluation of expenditures in 2024 and 25. There have been questions about whether the resources were used by CCWRO in a way that is not allowed by QLSPs. I don't think any of us have an absolute answer about whether that occurred or not. So the way Judge Wayne Gutierrez and I thought to best address that was to require an independent evaluation of that by someone qualified that the State Bar approves, if you read the more detailed recommendation in the memo. And if there are expenditures that were not allowed, then those funds would need to be repaid to the State Bar because they violated the grant terms for 24 and 25. And then during the current spending period, they will receive 27 IOLTA EAF funds quarterly on a cost reimbursement basis with an independent review of general ledgers and reports. There have been concerns raised about do they have adequate internal controls, or all of the expenditures that are allowed? And this is a mechanism to get at that question. And it's also designed to not impose the burden on the State Bar staff to do the review of the expenditures, but instead to require the organization to hire an independent reviewer and submit that information, that review, along with the expenditures that they will then be reimbursed for. The next one is, I think, partially at least addressed, if not fully addressed. Erica mentioned that the timesheets that they most recently got had the necessary approvals, but that had been an issue in the past. So it's supervisors don't approve timesheets for staff where conflicts of interest may exist. A requirement around the supervisory structure, which is that that the executive director supervises the staff, and the former executive director does not supervise the legislative staff directly, and maintain a board with no former staff or individuals with conflicts, including at least one member with fiscal oversight experience. They have that person now. So we believe that this provides clear guidance and a clear mechanism to immediately address problems if they're not in compliance. I'll reiterate what Judge Wayne Gutierrez said, which is there is a change, and action has been demonstrated by the new executive director, both at the ERC and the actions he took before, with the documents that bring the organization more into compliance that were submitted after the ERC, with additional information provided in his letter and in his statements today. And this seems to us to be a fair way to be clear about the expectations and to hold the organization to meeting those with a very clear remedy if that doesn't happen. So I'll just see if Judge Wayne Gutierrez has anything else to say. Okay.
Nothing more.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Judge Wayne Gutierrez and Catherine, for sharing about the recommendation and the rationale that supported it for your ultimate recommendations to the committee. I'll walk us through the staff recommendation. The staff recommendation, after participating in the ERC, is to deny funding for the organization in 2027. Staff couldn't conclude that CCWRO presently maintains quality control standards and internal control procedures that are required by the governing authorities. We feel it's necessary to assess the organization at this present moment. We understand that the organization has stated an intent to rectify remaining gaps, and that the organization has new leadership, but feel that the organization presently lacks the controls and has been unable to demonstrate that in the moment. So particularly in light of new and repeat findings from our 2025 follow-up monitoring visit, where the organization has already been under a corrective action plan for several years and participated in several monitoring visits in the past 3 to 4 years. There are several open questions, and given the amount of technical assistance to the organization and the lack of implementation until very recently on some of that guidance, staff feels that it remains to be seen whether the organization will be able to come into compliance. And specifically regarding the corrective action plan benchmarks, the organization didn't develop internal tracking method to evaluate services effectiveness. The survey to QLSPs to evaluate its use of services or its needs remains limited, and the responses that were received are somewhat concerning with some of them. They haven't fully integrated fiscal controls. Several documents are inadequate and regarding succession planning and evaluation forms. And many of the policies and procedures that have been drafted were done in the week leading up to the eligibility review conference, despite the organization having been aware of the need for improvements for several years in this area. And so it remains to be seen in terms of the implementation of those new policies and procedures, how they will be carried out, their effectiveness, and the commitment to following through. So that raised concerns that given the recency of all of these changes, the ability to actually bring them into operation. Despite staff's recommendation to deny the organization funding next year, we are recommending that they retain their funding from this year, that they would be allowed to continue to use unspent funds in an effort to demonstrate their compliance with existing requirements. So we have enough of a degree of confidence to allow them to use their existing unspent funds, of which we believe they're, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, almost $2 million. The organization last year had expenditures in the amount of about $1 million. And so this would still give the organization an opportunity to continue its services while also using available funds that it's already received to address concerns and put more funding, for example, into some of its administrative work to shore things up there. But in terms of granting it additional dollars, staff is concerned about doing that when we feel they lack the necessary controls currently, especially when those dollars, if not going to this organization, would be redistributed to other organizations that haven't raised concerns regarding their internal and quality controls, and would be put to use most likely more quickly. So. And yeah, so just the last point being that, again, recent events have raised concerns about the reliability of CCWRO's official records as well. So we would want to continue working with them regarding that piece before providing additional funding that the organization would then need to report out on or back to the state bar. So with that, that concludes the presentation. I'd like to open it up for discussion with the committee before reaching the proposed resolutions and answer any questions.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Judge Gutierrez. I'm just going to take a moment as chair to highlight that this kind of situation is a rarity for us, where we have kind of, deviating thoughts between staff and commissioners. It's not, impossible to happen, but I think it just speaks to the amount of effort and energy everyone's trying to apply a critical eye and review and come to, the most right decision that we can as a group. And I think that's a valuable thing and a reflection of the effort of both staff and commissioners and taking their roles seriously. And I also think it's a challenge for all of us that, as a committee, we might also be split in hearing some of this feedback, and that's okay. And ultimately, if the resolutions come to a vote and we have a split vote, I don't want anyone to feel, pressured one way or another. We don't have to be a unanimous committee. We have different perspectives on all of this, and that's natural. And frankly, if we get to a point in all of this where we don't have a consensus one way or another, we can always elevate this up to the commission at large to say, like, look, we were split. And, that's just the nature of the work that we do, especially on this committee, where we have some really tough and difficult decisions to make. And, it's natural that all of us might have differing opinions about how that should shake out. So I just want to, before we get into comments and eventually, motions and votes, I just want to kind of place that flag in the sand that, it's okay to reasonably disagree, and that's kind of natural, and it's going to happen with some of these things because we have some tough calls in front of us. So really, again, appreciate the work of staff and our commissioners on this, because it sounds like there was a ton of effort to try to figure out, how to split the baby, as it were, and make it work. And I appreciate that. So I'm just going to turn over to our hands raised. We're going to start with Judge Klein. Go ahead.
Ms. Carroll, you mentioned problems with the official record that they were keeping. Could you elaborate?
Sure. One example that I was referencing was the record of their meeting minutes for their board that they submitted to us, that we had received one copy that we received one copy as part of our monitoring visit materials back in November that provided details about that direct services question by the former executive director and discussion around that. And then in terms of action items by the board, didn't demonstrate the actual voting, the record of votes. And then when we received additional materials from the organization after the ERC, it included a copy of the meeting minutes from that same meeting, but it looked quite different. It eliminated information regarding that direct services question, but also provided an accounting of the votes from that meeting that hadn't been in the original materials submitted to us. And when we inquired about it, the executive director said that what had been submitted to us the first time were actually just draft notes of the meeting rather than finalized meeting minutes. But there had been no notation about that at the time they were submitted or subsequently. And so given the significant differences between the two documents, it raised concerns for us regarding the reliability of some of the information provided.
I'll just jump in and expand a little bit about the point of the board discussion of the provision of legal services. The first copy of the board meeting minutes that were not yet board approved indicated the board agreed to obtain outside counsel to investigate to explore the possibility of liability due to those actions, and then that is not referenced at all in the second copy.
Ms. King?
I had a question and a comment. The question is, if we deny them eligibility for 2027, but they keep their previous year's funds that have already been allocated, what leverage do we have over making sure that these changes that the commissioners wanted to put in place on their recommendation, which I think are really good, tight controls, especially the independent evaluation of 25 and 26 years fund spending, how much leverage would we still have over those kinds of behaviors? Can we do something later if they don't comply with can we make them do that independent evaluation, even though we're not going to give them, it's not part of the 2027 condition? Does that make sense?
Erica, let me help out, because this is something that we talked with Raul about, because he did raise the same exact verbatim question as you, Angie. So we didn't, there's so many materials and a lot of stuff, so we weren't able to put it into the memo. But I'm glad you asked the question, because we were going to mention too. We do have your fingertips to integrate any of those conditions, and I don't want to speak for Raul, but what he did share with me that if we do not find them eligible for 2027 and let them keep the 2 million, we should impose some of those conditions, if not all of them. But Raul, I don't know if you want to speak to a little bit, but that was the gist of our discussion.
Yeah, I'll just say they're still subject to all the same grant requirements and requirements of our rules generally for the use of those funds. And included in that is the requirement to comply with any additional directives that the Commission sends in.
So, and the other part of my comment is that it appears that, if not all, at least a large part of the problems in the past, in which there have been many, and I've been real concerned about them the whole time I've been on this commission, seem to be related to that one individual who's no longer there. So I wonder how much of everybody's concerns are centered around that, and I mean, it leaves me kind of in the middle.
Yeah,
I agree with Catherine. That they seem to be improving. Let's give them a chance. But on the other hand, they really had to wait until the hammer almost dropped to do anything. So.
Yeah, just to respond briefly to your last point, Angie, that individual, the former executive director, is still with the organization. He's transitioned into a role as the director of government relations, I believe is his new title. So it is a small organization. He is still involved in it, but he's not in the executive director role anymore. So he is still associated with it, but has different responsibilities in terms of his role currently.
Well, I mean, and he's a smart man with a lot of knowledge, because when I was working, we relied on a lot of things he would give us information, which now that I see may or may not have been correct. But in any case, I'm glad he's not in control anymore, but he is still around, still kind of makes me sort of theory. Anyway,
Hey, Catherine.
So I thank you for raising the question, Angie. I think one of the reasons that Judge Wayne Gutierrez and I spent a lot of time thinking about this was because it was not clear to us at all what conditions the bar would impose for if the organization was applying for funding in 2027. It was what I understood it to be was if they apply in the subsequent year, so for 28 funding, there would be another monitoring visit and they would be required to follow the rules and there would be a review based on that. But I think I've come to learn, particularly with the small organizations that we've actually spent a lot of time today talking about, a number of different small organizations, is that really clear requirements about what you have to do to maintain your funding, kind of the conditions that have short leashes that say if you don't do this by this date, your funding can be terminated, which is what the action the commission took with another organization last year, are really important. And it's a way to be fair about what's happening, right? And so that everybody knows at the outset. I think Jason was absolutely right when he said with the organization, fine, they did something, but they did it 2 months late. And we were very clear it had to be done by these earlier dates. And that's kind of the clarity that I think Judge Wayne Gutierrez and I were trying to think through, but to do it in a way that recognize after a very long period of time, this organization has actually made changes and actually taken actions to bring it into compliance that had not occurred during any other period of time. And so to acknowledge that progress, but to also give them a short leash for continuing to make the progress with very, very clear conditions about what has to happen that we think actually better protect the bar, because there's an audit and it's like you're going to repay money if you did not follow the guidelines about how your funds could be spent. So that's sort of how we got there. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Ken.
I appreciate the thoroughness of the presentation from everyone on the ERC. It's extremely helpful. I also want to say I was very impressed by Mr. Goldberg's letter of yesterday. I thought that he thoroughly dealt with a number of the issues and expressed both contrition and expressed a plan for moving forward. And I think that that really needs to be taken into account, given that the ERC occurred on his literally second day on the job as an executive director, even one who had experience with the organization, given his prior role as board chair and given the couple of weeks he'd been volunteering. One question that I had, there are repeated references in there was a timeline that staff put together that showed the history of issues going back many years. It was part of the agenda packet. And there were repeated references to the unauthorized practice of law, references that included recurring UPL concerns as recently as November of 2025. Were those issues, and I don't see any discussion of those in the report from the ERC or in the discussion we've just been having. All the issues we're talking about are truly important, but so is UPL. I'm wondering from the folks either on staff or the commissioners who are on the ERC if those UPL issues have been addressed and if they are no longer a concern.
I think whether they're, from my perspective, I think we don't yet know because we don't know what activities occurred. And so I'll give an example, like advocates are allowed to represent people in front of, as you know, certain health and human services bodies as a result of those statutes or regulations. So IHSS is an example of those. In my former organization, advocates appeared on a regular basis and it wasn't UPL. What's unclear and the reason for the audit is to say, did those activities occur? We certainly heard from one commenter today that said that in fact had occurred. And we don't know yet. And that's the reason for an independent audit with confidentiality provided to current and former staff that can speak freely about what they observed, and appropriate action being taken, which can include the repayment of funds, because support centers are not supposed to be doing direct representation, but there may be other information that says it was UPL. I just don't know the answer to that. That's the reason for finding out so that appropriate action can be taken. It was the same question I sort of asked about UPL with the other organization where a former employee had, been representing people potentially. So anyway, I think it's to be determined, but from my perspective, a path to make that determination.
Bob, before I let you go, Duan, are you going to respond on this same topic? Because if so, I'll let you
Yeah,
jump
I
in to
was
be
going to
responsible.
say, if it's not already obvious, because support centers can't provide direct services unless there's some exception. The other thing is, as Catherine mentioned, there's administrative law where advocates can go and help clients and represent them without being an attorney. One of the issues is the former executive director was a non-attorney, and so though even an individual capacity could, I think one of the concerns is because if clients were calling and he was going to represent them, that there would be an appearance that he was an attorney. So that we didn't, I don't think this commission has the expertise, nor the staff on this commission have the expertise to evaluate where it's UPL. What I wanted to say was, I think the way that the condition is created right now in regards to that is more around expenditures and related to our rule. I don't think, and I could be wrong, if you all were imagining a law firm to go out and then make a determination on UPL, I don't know if that's explicit there, and I actually don't know if that practically it happens, because that would be under the purview of the state bar, another office in the state bar. There are mechanisms, and some of the commissioners here know because we're working on community justice worker, where there are mechanisms to kind of file a complaint, and that goes to a different track at the state bar. It's not under our purview and our jurisdiction to handle the UPL matter. And again, I don't know if an outside auditor would get you that question. But if I misunderstood that condition, then maybe that's something we should discuss here.
Yeah, I guess I didn't mean to say that the Trust Fund Commission was going to deal with that issue, but if it seems to me, if you're a law firm, which is one of the choices for who could do this audit, came across information that suggested there was a violation of a rule, it could be a recommendation they make or refer or otherwise for, we just don't know enough. That's my point. But it wasn't that the commission would make a determination, because that's outside the scope of the commission, but there are appropriate referrals that can be made to address that if in fact that's what the facts suggest. And I don't know whether they will suggest that. I mean, like I really don't have any information or an opinion about it. I just know there's allegations.
Right. Okay. Bob, go ahead.
Thanks. Let me start by saying I worked with Stephen Goldberg for a number of years, and he's an outstanding attorney. He's a really good attorney, really good, hard charging advocate. I think you can see by what he's done in the short period of time that he's been there that he really is taking this stuff seriously and taking steps to get them into compliance. But I mean, we have a more than 20-year history of non-compliance with this. I think Erica said the staff has spent hundreds of hours working with this organization over the years. And until Stephen came along a couple of months ago, they were pretty non-responsive to everything. The same kind of issues kept coming up over and over and over again. And I don't think I don't think we should sit back and ignore that history when we're making these evaluations. I don't think, a sudden change at the last minute can really overcome all the serious problems they've had for so many years. And the other thing, Eric touched on this too, but if we continue to fund this organization, that means other support centers that we know do quality work and provide a real service to the community are going to they're not going to get increases that they otherwise might get if we continue to fund this organization. And when you look at what this organization does to support the legal services programs, it's not very much. They have a few trainings, and I just saw in the notes that flashed on the screen that misinformation has been given in some of the trainings. The person who commented said they're sure that with Stephen moving in, that's not going to happen anymore, and I'm sure that's true. But the fact that they would provide trainings to legal services and give inaccurate information at those trainings is pretty concerning. And there aren't very many trainings, and not very many people go to them. And I think it's reflective that they got 5 responses when they when they asked for evaluations. I mean, the organization is not used in the same way that something like the National Housing Law Project or Western Center on Law and Poverty. It's just not used in the same way by advocates in the field. And I don't think, I think if what you're saying about the carryover money, they can continue to function for a while. Stephen can work and Stephen can pull together and make the organization both in compliance, but also effective and an important resource for the community. I think Stephen has the ability to carry out those things. But currently, I don't see it. And I don't think we should, even with a short string, a short leash, I don't think we should continue to fund this, this organization.
So I will just say, and my opinion when I heard about this, because I am also, as an individual, kind of torn. I find myself leaning into almost 2 different extremes that aren't on the table, but like just on the one hand, it's like, okay, well, if it's that bad that we need to deny 2027 and whatever, then they shouldn't get to wind down the money they've already got. They should return that too, on the one hand. And then on the other hand, it's like, well, if it's not that bad, then they should get to wind down the funds and get 2027 with conditions. Like I kind of find myself like, it's either we're letting you use the money with conditions, and those conditions apply globally, or it's like it's in such a place that we aren't comfortable with using the money at all, and you should return and be denied until you get the house in order. I recognize that neither of those extremes are on the table from a suggestion standpoint, but I think my reaction that I'm putting out there for everyone to think about is just like it seems like it's tough to where do you find the right balance of acknowledging the work that has been done, and even as kind of Bob mentioned, the new ED stepping in and very quickly making rapid changes responsive to some of these things, and I think that's worth acknowledging. How much credit and opportunity to see that through do you give, or do we give, and in honoring the taxpayer dollars? And or on the flip side, it's like how much is also kind of like Bob mentioned, where it's like the damage has already been done for the last so long, so we're glad you're taking action now, but there has to be some consequences. And I think that is ultimately, I think, the question that comes to us as a committee to say, like, what is the decision here? Dwan, you have your hand up, so go ahead. And then after, I think maybe we should look at the proposed recommendations and see if we've got a motion for one or the other, and we'll see how we shake out if there are no further comments.
I will say we spent a lot of hours trying to actually come up with the staff recommendation ourselves. And I will say that there was one iteration where we were going to propose to you all to find them ineligible and to also terminate their grant funding. But I have to say, sitting in that meeting and hearing Stephen, he has a lot of heart in what he has to do. We wanted to throw them a lifeline, and that's why we had said, let's try to let them keep the current funding. And part of that is not give them the 2027 funding, because then it doesn't give us another year where they're not in compliant, and that it's a sign that this is sufficient, And then other programs that have proper internal controls can get that money, but they still have a lifeline of that. So that's where I know it doesn't kind of shore up, and I think that was, Jason, what you said. They're not actually, and we don't believe they are. And I do think you would be in your right to kind of terminate their funding down and call back the money, but we didn't want to go to that extreme. And so for us, the line felt a little bit in the middle. I will propose one more that's even more in the middle, and that's something that Erica put in the memo, and I'll just draw your attention to it. Because if you do go with the conditions, one thing that the staff would propose then is to have those conditions be met this year. And then what would happen practically, then we could then try to at least inform programs if CCR or WRO didn't meet the conditions, then we would go and notify the programs. And they still need to have time to redo their budgets. The thing with that is it does set a precedent that we're going to call another commission meeting. We're going to extend this more. But I think like there's a fairness also, and I think Bob raised this, a fairness issues for programs that right now at this moment are in compliance or are doing very excellent work, have no internal controls. They don't benefit from this if we know later next year. So that would be another option. Obviously, you have your fingertips, any other iteration of that, or setting additional conditions on the staff recommendation.
Dawn, I'm having a great deal of difficulty hearing you, so my apologies.
Oh, I'm
but
sorry.
I think I
Okay.
missed like a third. So the gist is they would have to meet the conditions that right now extend until May by December. And I think, is that right?
Well, then you have to back into it a little bit more. So we have a November meeting. So we would propose to meet the condition by November, and then there's a monitoring visit too that's scheduled, and you would find, there's a little bit more in that memo that maybe Erica can go into the details, but you would need to call an additional commission meeting if you wanted to be even more generous. Again, I'm not really suggesting this, but I'm saying if you wanted to try to balance both, trying to give them another chance without it impacting programs that maybe otherwise would be, we could try to do it again, but it's an inordinate amount of time, and not just from staff, but for the commission to have to reconvene. If you wait until next year and to define the conditions, other programs don't have the benefit. To me, it's a fairness issue for other programs that are in compliance, and we have left this dragged on for now more than 2 decades. But obviously that's just my 2 cents.
So are you suggesting that we do? I'm a little
No,
lost.
I'm suggesting you take the staff recommendation is to find them ineligible and let them have $2 million. And then now even take to heed what OGC is saying is perhaps put additional conditions on there. We couldn't in time. If you don't want to do that, what I'm sticking by the staff recommendation. I'm just trying to give you another alternative.
Okay, so I think I'm going to move the commissioner recommendation, and that way we'll just know. It'll get a second, or it won't get a second. It'll get a vote, it won't get a vote, and then we'll just, so that's my suggestion. I'm moving the commissioner recommendation.
Do we have that we can look at it on screen or something like that? So I know that I don't want to repeat
be mindful of the time because
Yeah.
Jason's leaving in 15 minutes and I have a hard stop at 3, so I feel like we had.
I appreciate that, Catherine, moving it along here.
I don't know.
This one, we did budget a lot of time for this one. I think it was worth it, but I agree.
We have 2 other ones to do maybe, so.
Yeah. All right. So this is the commissioner's recommendation. Catherine has made a motion. Do we have a second for this motion? And Catherine, while see your eyes tracing, I want to make sure this motion is properly reflective of what you're intending.
I think that's right.
Okay. Do we have a second on Catherine's motion?
I'll second.
Okay, that's Ken Babcock. Can take a roll.
Sorry, I need to just pull up the. Okay. Babcock?
Yes.
Blakemore?
Yes.
Connolly? Absent. Gonzalez?
No.
King,
No.
Klein,
No.
Pryor,
No.
Stalker,
No.
Galkin,
Yes.
3 yeses, 5 nos. The motion fails.
All right. Do we have an alternative motion?
I'll move the staff recommendation.
Second.
Okay, it's King, then Stock.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. King and then Stalker. Okay, Babcock,
No.
Blakemore,
No.
Connolly, absent. Gonzalez,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Pryor,
Yes.
Stalker,
Yes.
Galkin.
No.
That's 5 yeses, 3 nos. The motion carries.
Thank you.
And could I
Thank
just
you,
ask
everyone.
one question? Just one question. It sounded like there was some intention to impose clarity with conditions. So what is the process for doing that, and how is the commission involved in that?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think because we didn't have time, I feel like there was intention. So what we can do is, Catherine and Judge Wayne Gutierrez, if you don't mind, we can work with you as a working group to bring something to the commission to modify that. If you don't have time, you're closest to it, so we'd love to work with you. If not, then we can work with Jason directly.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Fine for me. I'm happy to do that.
I do want to say that one of the things that that caused me some consternation, but I think is valid for Catherine's point just now to Duan, is I do like the idea of very strictly imposed conditions with whatever we go. So I'm glad that I would be very happy to see that kind of codified alongside the approved motion, whatever those conditions are. And I think that did work successfully in the prior situation. I mean, there wasn't consternation about that later in execution, but I do think that, that very strict conditions is important. So I appreciate that.
And what I would imagine is, with all the hard work that, Catherine and Judge Wayne Gutierrez put into those conditions, probably most, if not all of them, we'll try to figure out timeline and so forth to stagger it. There is an upcoming monitoring visit that is scheduled in September. One thing that we could do, and I can workshop this with Catherine and Judge Wayne Gutierrez, is to move that monitoring visit till next year to give them a little bit more of a runway. But before the next application cycle, so that we have some data points. But those are things we can work the details out to bring forward to the commission.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, just in the interest of time, we had one item withdrawn. We heard about that very early in our session, I believe in public comment. Erica or Duan, do you want to quickly summarize kind of the content of that so we can scrape that from our agenda?
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of background. You heard most of it already in the public comments. About 2 days ago, Bardis, who's their legal director, and also as well as their interim ED, and Sarah Khan, who is a senior staff attorney there, and the interim operations manager, did reach out to us to say that they wanted to withdraw. So some of the staff and I met with them 2 days ago. We said that because there was a clarity in terms of who is the decision maker at the organization, what we requested was an email from not only the two of them, but from the president, Carlos Hugan, and then also the board chair, to make very sure that they were in fact withdrawing. The email was sent yesterday with very clear instructions of how to withdraw. They did withdraw it last night. We put it on the item because we wanted to make this announcement if there wasn't the public comment, and to answer any questions that you may have. I know there are already a couple other commissioners that asked me about the attorney's fee, so I will say that now. That is on a separate track of looking into. it's still moving forward. At some point, I'm hoping this year, you will get a full report once that analysis and that investigation is finished. And then what are your, depending on what we find, what options are at your fingertips, I will say, at that point. But I'm hoping it's not going to come before the August meeting, but I'm really, really hoping by the November commission meeting, you'll have that information. And then the other thing that we're waiting on is following the last commission meeting, we did send them a letter to say that within 30 days, you need to send us your reports, you need to send us your expenditures and any unspent funds. So they still have a few more weeks. And so we'll report back. And if you're interested, I can also send an email, or Erica can send an email before we report it out to the commission meeting.
Great. Thank you so much. Let's see. I've got 10 minutes or so. We had Sylvia on earlier for 5.3. Let's see if we can at least get that started. And then if I have to run, I can at least kind of plant my seed before I duck and run for that.
Sylvia, can you check to see if your audio and your video?
Sure. Are you able to hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
You're a little bit faded, but
There's something with, what I figured out is when you plug it into the port at the office, I think that's when your audio goes out. So you try not to plug it in.
What if I?
She's in the conference room.
You're in the conference room. Okay. So maybe just talk louder like Elizabeth.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Is that okay?
A little bit better, yeah.
Okay. All right. So
You should face.
All right. So I'm sorry for my back.
You won't be because.
Oh, it's not on. So let me turn it on. So I will be presenting on item 5.3, approval of recommendation regarding Community Lawyers Inc.'s 2027 interest on the lawyers' trust accounts and equal access fund grants eligibility. As the committee will recall, on May 21st, 2026, this committee recommended termination of CLI's 2026 IOLTA and EAF funding following an off-cycle eligibility review conference. And on July 13th, a few weeks ago, the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission adopted that recommendation. Today's item concerns a separate determination, CLI's 2027 eligibility. Staff reviewed CLI's 2027 application, together with the existing record because both address the same quality control standards evaluated during the monitoring review and ERC. So I'll briefly summarize the procedural background, discuss the principal issues identified through staff's review of the application and supporting materials, and present the recommendation of staff and the working group comprised of Commissioners Eloina Gonzalez and Bob Stalker on CLI's eligibility for 2027 funding. So CLI is a qualified legal services project located in Compton. CLI first became eligible for IOLTA and EAF funding in 2022. As I noted earlier, the Commission terminated CLI's 2026 funding on July 13th following an off-cycle ERC. So today's item concerns the application, but because the application was submitted only a few months after that ERC and addressed the same quality control safeguards, staff reviewed it together with the existing record before making its recommendation alongside the working group today. So this slide summarizes the procedural history leading to today's eligibility conversation. During the 2025 monitoring review, staff identified significant concerns regarding CLI's quality control safeguards. Following the monitoring review, staff provided technical assistance and opportunities for CLI to address those concerns. Because those identified issues remained unresolved, the GES committee required an off-cycle ERC, which was held on February 25th of 2026. Based on the ERC with the working group, the GES committee recommended termination of the organization's 2026 funding, and the commission also adopted that recommendation. While that process was underway, CLI submitted its 2027 IOLTA and EAF application on May 14th, 2026. Following public comment at the July commission meeting, CLI also submitted supplemental information in response to State Bar staff request. Staff reviews the 2027 application together with those supplemental materials. And again, as I noted earlier, because the existing record and last year's monitoring visit coincide with this year's eligibility determination did so together. So for consideration for the committee today is whether the 2027 application and supporting documents demonstrate that the organization presently maintains the quality control safeguards required under the trust fund program. Sorry. So before discussing the specific issues identified in staff's review, I'd like to take the opportunity to frame the question before the committee. So the issue of the 2027 eligibility for the organization is not whether CLI has described quality control policies in the abstract. Rather, the question is whether the 2027 application and supporting record demonstrate that CLI presently maintains quality control safeguards that satisfy trust fund program eligibility requirements. In conducting that review, staff in the working group focused on 3 related questions. First, do the quality control safeguards described in the application correspond to CLI's current staffing structure? Second, do those safeguards satisfy the statutory and state bar rule requirements governing quality controls? And finally, does the application and supporting record demonstrate that the safeguards are implemented in practice rather than simply described as organizational policies? And I'll go into this in greater detail in the remaining slides. So as I noted, these are the principal areas of concern. So staff reviewed the 2027 application and based on the review, identified these concerns that you see in front of you. So the first one is the organization's current supervisory structure. The application describes quality control practices overseen by the executive director and a supervising attorney. But the application does not explain how supervisory responsibilities changed following the organization's leadership transition or identify the supervising attorney referenced throughout that portion of the application. As a result, staff in the working group could not determine whether the supervisory framework described in the application corresponds to CLI's current staffing structure. The second concerns supervision of volunteer attorneys and oversight over legal services. Although the application states that volunteer attorneys are supervised and that a legal staff member reviews their work, it does not identify who performs that review, whether that individual is a licensed attorney, or how supervisory review is carried out when issues are identified. As a result, the application does not demonstrate that attorney supervision and quality review satisfy the trust fund program's requirements. The third concerns whether the deficiencies identified during the 2025 monitoring review and the February 2026 ERC have been corrected. While the application and supplemental materials identify staffing changes and restate quality control procedures, they do not explain how those changes address the implementation deficiencies previously identified by the working group and by staff, or demonstrate that the organization's quality control safeguards are presently implemented in practice. So diving in a little bit more. So the first area of concern is the organization's current supervisory structure. So as I noted, the application states that quality control is overseen by the ED together with a supervising attorney. It also notes that the organization underwent a leadership transition in late 2025 that staff was earlier made aware of. However, the application does not explain how supervisory responsibilities changed following that transition. It also does not identify that the supervising attorney referenced throughout the quality control section or describe that person's qualifications or responsibilities. Staff also reviewed the supplemental organizational chart and staffing information submitted after the July Commission meeting. And so while those materials identify personnel changes and assign responsibility for particular legal clinics, they do not explain how the supervisory framework differs from the practices previously found to be insufficient or how attorney supervision is carried out under the organization's current staffing structure. As a result, staff in the working group could not determine from the application and supporting materials whether CLI presently maintains a supervisory framework that supports the quality control safeguards required by the trust fund program. The second area concerns attorney supervision of legal services provided by volunteer attorneys, as well as the review of those legal services. The application states again that volunteer attorneys are supervised by the ED and supervising attorney. It also states a quote-unquote legal staff member, indicating that legal staff member attends volunteer clinics and reviews volunteer case recommendations entered into the case management system. That the application, however, does not identify who that legal staff member is, whereas in other parts of the application, they identify if the person is a supervising attorney or a paralegal or a law clerk, etc., or whether that individual is a licensed attorney with the authority to conduct substantive supervisory review. Nor does it explain how review is documented or how deficiencies are addressed when they are identified. Because the application does not identify who performs that review or demonstrate that the reviewer is qualified to do so, staff in the working group could not determine whether the attorney supervision and work quality review described in the application satisfy the quality control requirements required of the trust fund program. This is the final area. So this concerns whether or not CLI demonstrated that the quality control deficiencies identified during the monitoring review and the ERC have been corrected. The organization submitted its 2027 application less than 3 months after the ERC. The application provided an opportunity to demonstrate that the previously identified deficiencies had been addressed. Instead, the application largely restates the quality control procedures previously described without demonstrating material changes in implementation, supervisory responsibilities, or oversight mechanisms. Similarly, the supplemental staffing information shared by the organization in July identifies personnel changes, but does not explain how those changes address the implementation deficiencies previously identified during the monitoring review and the ERC. As a result, staff and the working group could not conclude from the application, as well as the supporting record, that the previously identified quality control deficiencies have been corrected or that CLI presently maintains the quality control standards required by the trust fund program. So I will go into a few slides on the governing authorities. So these are the two statutory provisions that establish threshold eligibility requirements for a qualified legal services project. So as you'll note here, section 6213A1 requires that a QLSP maintain quality control procedures approved by the state bar. Section 6217, section A, further requires grant recipients to maintain quality service and professional standards. And so the issue under consideration before the committee is not simply whether CLI has described quality control policies, but whether its application and supporting record demonstrate that those quality control safeguards are presently maintained in practice. And then I'll go into the rules that implement those statutory requirements. So Rule 3.661 requires applicants to demonstrate that they maintain quality control procedures sufficient to ensure safe and effective delivery of legal services. Staff reviewed CLA's application under that standard. And so while the application describes a supervisory framework, it does not explain how supervisory responsibilities changed following the organization's leadership transition or other personnel changes, or identify the supervising attorney responsible for overseeing legal services. State Bar Rules 3.680E2 requires applicants to describe quality control procedures that include appropriate supervision of staff and volunteers and review of the quality of legal services performed. So again, the application states that volunteer attorneys are supervised and that a legal staff member reviews volunteer attorney recommendations, at least in the way that they're inputted into the CMS. However, it does not identify who performs that review, whether that identifies qualified to provide attorney supervision, or how supervisory review is implemented when deficiencies are identified. State Bar Rule 3.681C requires applicants to demonstrate that they presently maintain the quality control safeguards described in their application. And so following the July 13th commission meeting, the staff requested additional information regarding CLA staffing changes and supervisory structure. As part of the attachments in the memo for you today, CLA submitted an organizational chart, staffing roster, as well as responses regarding attorney staffing and supervision based on staff's request. And so staff also considered those additional materials alongside the application. So again, those materials and those responses identify those who are assigned to particular legal clinics. However, they don't explain how those changes address the deficiencies identified earlier by the working group and then determined to be insufficient by this committee as well as the full commission. So when considering the entirety of the record, staff and the working group could not conclude that CLI has demonstrated that it presently maintains the quality control safeguards required under the trust fund program. With that said, because the application and supporting record failed to do that kind of demonstration with the compliance and statutory requirements and regulatory requirements, staff and the working group recommend that the GES committee recommend to the full commission to determine that the organization CLI is ineligible for 2027 IOLTA and EAF funding. I'm happy to answer questions, or if Bob or Elowina wanted to add anything as well, would invite them to do so.
Catherine, I see your hand is up. Go ahead.
So I'm just curious about what the protocol is for, so if it's denied, then what would happen for 2028 funding? What are the conditions that they would have to meet so that there's clarity again for this potential applicant if they are applying in 2028?
Erica, did you want to take that question? I see you want to off mute.
So they would need to complete a pre-application as a currently unfunded applicant. As part of that application process, we have some standard information that we request from them, but staff is also empowered to follow up with organizations regarding any areas of concern or question about that. So we could continue to investigate and discuss with the organization about its improvements in these areas to obtain assurances that they've actually made changes and can demonstrate follow through on what they've stated that they're going to be doing. Dawn, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just on that vein too. We've had organizations that we found ineligible that we still maintain pretty positive relationships with, and they call me, they call the staff. We're happy to provide that technical assistance, even though they're not a grantee, to get them prepared for the next application cycle.
I mean, it just feels like there's very specific things related to the supervisory structure that you would expect to see. And I would encourage in any communication with them about a denial that we be very clear about this is what this needs to look like. And I wasn't involved in this, so I don't recall reading like the specific language you have. Maybe that's clear, but I think in fairness to them, sort of being clear, it's not just the general standards. In addition, you're going to have to be able to address what the deficiency was that was found before.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, it's really specific because they have a lot of volunteers. The benefit in our office is there's a number of us that come from that world of pro bono and supervising, Elizabeth and I, so we can both lend ourselves and put them in contact with other models that are very successful. But it was really a lack of supervision with their attorney volunteers. And so, they can get there. But we will endeavor to be very clear with them.
I think what I would just say to Catherine's point, and it's not to say that you don't do this, but we've had a few instances of late where we've had grantees that we are finding ineligible or applying strict conditions to, and doing our work as GES or the commission at large. I think it might behoove us to think about like what is the the exit framework look like when we're exiting someone who's current, like, and they've been determined ineligible, and we have been saying in our meetings, like, that's not a permanent ineligibility. Like, you could come back later once you, like, what does that exit memo look like, and how does it read so that they know where their gaps are? And I think it would be good for us to document that, especially as, whether it's IOLTA, EAF, or some other grant, like when it comes up inevitably for some other grant, that the commissioners who are assisting evaluating those applications with staff kind of can look at that exit memo and then look at the application and say, like, and help answer that question, like, have they substantively addressed these things that they were flagged for that made them ineligible in the first place? And I know we've been reliant heavily in the past as commissioners on staff saying, like, oh, this was an issue like 10 years ago, and they had addressed it, or they still are struggling with it, or whatever. There's been some things, and I think, as much as we all rely on staff input, and it's excellent to have it, there's turnover, and the people who have the memory, the institutional knowledge may not be there to support us, and it would be good to have that documentation available for everyone, staff and commissioner alike. So, that might be something that we can table to figure out, like, what does that framework look like, assuming we don't have one, just as GES is making these determinations.
Any other questions?
You're muted.
Oh, I'm unmuting that.
Oh, no, sorry.
No, you're not. I hear you.
Oh, okay.
You asked if there was any other questions. You're
Yes.
good. I don't see any. So if we have a resolution, maybe share that resolution. We'll see if we can get a motion.
Oh, am I supposed to ask the commissioner, or are you going to do it? Oh, Jason does it. Sorry.
Jason
Sorry.
does it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, I'm just saying. So there's a proposed resolution on screen that's being shared by Sylvia. Do we have a commissioner willing to make that motion?
I make the motion. Bob?
Second,
Stalker.
Jody.
And Pryor, second. Roll call, please.
Babcock,
Yes.
Blakemore, Connolly, Gonzalez,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Pryor,
Yes.
Stalker,
Yes.
Galkin.
Yes, and for the record, for everyone, I am still at the notice location. I'm just now on the steps and not in the private room of the same location.
No worries. Oh, Catherine, sorry, I thought maybe you had left already. I didn't hear your vote.
Oh, yes, I did say yes, but I might have been on mute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have 8 yeses, no nos. The motion passes.
Excellent.
Dedication, Jason.
It is a beautiful library, I have to say, so it's not that bad.
Jason, we only have a few minutes. We could do that agenda item. I know Catherine also has to leave at 3 for the larger commission. And in the meantime, if you all read the materials and have anything you want to, like any concerns, then you can let us know. Otherwise, we will do a short version of that at the commission meeting. But it's a pretty routine items.
Yeah, I'm okay with moving that to the commission, considering how much time we spent and that we have 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
And while I know Catherine has a hard stop, I also don't want to keep everyone else. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So we'll call it then, and we'll table the remaining items. And I will just say I appreciate everyone's time, and thank you for meeting today. And with that, we'll call it adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.